In part 2 of this video series, we will look at the process of reprojecting data in ArcMap. The process of reprojecting data refers to the process of converting a shapefile or other GIS data layer from one projected coordinate system to another. In this video, we will use the counties file that was downloaded from the US Census Bureau and converted into a projected coordinate system that is based on the National Map Atlas standards. I'm going to go ahead and add the unprojected file. If you recall, you can check the system that's in use by right-clicking on the layer and selecting Properties, and then switching to the Source tab. So in this example, this file is currently unprojected. To reproject your file, you'll need to use ArcToolbox. Click on Data Management Tools, Projections and Transformations, and then the Project tool. Recall that in part 1, we used the Define Projection tool. In this video, because our purpose is to transform from one system to another, we will use the Project tool. Provide the input dataset. The input coordinate system should automatically populate. In this case, this file uses the GCS North American 1983 system. It's unprojected data. Change the output dataset. Remember that by default, your data is stored in the default geodatabase. You may not want that. If that's the case, then go ahead and provide a different location. I might create a new folder here called test, and then we'll save the file as counties reprojected. The last step is the most important. This is where you'll select the output coordinate system. You can click on this button to give you a list of available choices. You can either go through the menu system, or you can search for an existing projection based on some keywords. If you use the menu system, you'll notice that most of these are organized by regions. That's the general way the different systems within ArcMap are cataloged. In this case, we're looking at data for the US, so perhaps going into the continental section may be a good place to start. North America, and there are a number of choices available here. Here's a quick tip. Sometimes you can look at the name of the system in ArcMap to get some idea about what properties are maintained or distorted. So for example, if you look at this highlighted option, just by looking at the name, we can see that this is an equal area conic projection. An equal area projection meaning it preserves area, and conic here referring to the fact that it used a conic developable surface. Here's another example. This is an equidistant conic, so it's a distance preserving projection that uses a conic developable surface. And the last example is conformal conic. Conformal meaning shape preserving, and again it uses the conic developable surface. And you can look through many examples. Not all of the systems have names that are that describe the properties, but most of them do. So here you can see this is a system that's appropriate for the northern parts of Asia. It's a distance preserving projection, and it uses a developable surface. Right? In some cases that it's not that obvious. Right? But you can look at the details to still get some sense of what that projection does. So again, this one is a shape preserving projection that comes off a conic developable surface. Right? So generally, if you spend a little bit of time looking at the descriptions and or the names, you could get a pretty good sense of what that projection does. Anyway, back to our task. Our task is to reproject this data to the US National Atlas standards. So we'll select that as our output system, push OK, and you can generally leave the geographic transformation optional, blank. ArcMap will automatically select that for you. Push the OK button and wait for the process to complete. If everything went correctly, you should see a green checkbox at the bottom right corner of your screen. Now, one thing to remember is that if you have an existing ArcMap document open, any file that you add to this document will automatically use the existing system, right? So in this case, our ArcMap document uses the geographic coordinate system. So if I add my new file, which was using the National Atlas standards, when I add this file to this existing document, I get this error message saying that I have two files that are using inconsistent systems, right? My existing document, which uses this counties file, is unprojected. And the new file that I'm trying to add is projected in the National Atlas standard. So there is an inconsistency between the two geographic data layers. And that's the reason why you see this warning. And what the software is telling us is that it's going to take this data file, right, the one that we just saved, and it's going to automatically transform it or automatically reproject it to this system. However, not to make this confusing, that reprojection is temporary, right? So this file will not permanently change. As long as you're using the file in this document, it'll take on the properties of this document. Okay, so when I hit the close button here, you'll notice that this new file that was just added, and let me change the color, essentially looks identical to the original file, even though they're using different systems. And the reason this is happening is because of the automatic reprojection feature of ArcMap. So ideally, if you transformed your data and would like to use the new projection and coordinate systems, you may consider starting a new ArcMap document and then loading only those files that are in the projection that you desire. So I'm going to start a new ArcMap document and I'm going to add my reprojected file. And of course you can see that this looks quite different than the file that we had loaded earlier.